Welcome to Billerica Public Library's Book Buzz, November edition. Sit back and listen to find out about some of the latest and greatest novels that Billerica Public Library and Merrimack Valley Consortium have purchased for your enjoyment for this month. Our first genre is contemporary fiction. Carry the Dog by Stephanie Gagné. Bea has spent a lifetime running from her childhood. The daughter of a famous photographer, she and her brothers were subjects of an explosive series of images in the 1960s known as the mock nudes. Now, decades later, both the Museum of Modern Art and Hollywood have come calling, eager to cash in on Bea's mother's reputation. Bea lives in Manhattan with her borrowed dog, Dory, and sort of sister, Echo. After years of avoiding her past, Bea must make a choice. Let the world in and be compensated for the trauma of her childhood, or leave it all locked away in a storage unit forever. Oh, Beautiful by Jung Young. Eleanor, a 40-something former model, is struggling to reinvent herself as a freelance writer when she receives an unexpected assignment. Her mentor from grad school offers her a chance to write for a prestigious magazine about the Bacon oil boom in North Dakota. Eleanor grew up near Bacon, raised by an overbearing father and a distant Korean mother who met and married when he was stationed overseas. After decades away from home, Eleanor returns to a landscape she hardly recognizes, overrun by tens of thousands of newcomers. Eleanor experiences a profound sense of grief. She rages at the locals who still see her as a foreigner and the memories of her family's estrangement after her mother decided to escape her unhappy marriage, leaving Eleanor and her sister behind. The longer she pursues this potentially career-altering assignment, the more her past intertwines with the story she's trying to tell, revealing a disturbing new realities that will forever change her in the way she looks at the world. Just Haven't Met You Yet by Sophie Cousins. Hopeless romantic and lifestyle reporter Laura's business trip to the Channel Islands isn't off to a great start. After an embarrassing encounter with the most attractive man she's ever seen in real life, she arrives at her hotel and realizes she grabbed the wrong suitcase from the airport. Her only consolation is its irresistible contents, each of which intrigues her more and more. The owner of the suitcase is clearly Laura's dream man. Now, all she has to do is find him. Besides, what are the odds that she finds the one on the same island where her parents first met and fell in love, especially as she sets out to write an article about their romance? But as Laura's mystery man proves difficult to find, and as she uncovers family secrets, she may have to reimagine the life, the love she always thought she wanted. The Surrogate by Toni Helene. Ruth is a no-nonsense journalist from the Midwest desperate for a child with her new husband, Hal. Hal is open to having another child, but more than anything, he wants Ruth to be happy, to become the mother she always wanted to be. Their hope rests with Callie, a 19-year-old who wants to go to college but doesn't have the cash. The arrangement seems perfect for everyone. All through the pregnancy, Ruth and Hal look forward to the new baby that will make their family complete. But within a day of the baby's birth, Callie has a change of heart and engineers a harrowing escape from the hospital with the newborn. When Ruth and Hal discover that she and their daughter are gone, a whole series of doubts and secrets are revealed, and it's no longer clear what's right and what's wrong. Our second genre is fantasy. Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. Jade, the mysterious and magical substance once elusive to the Greenbone warriors, is now sought throughout the world. Everyone wants access to the supernatural abilities it provides, from traditional forces such as governments, mercenaries, criminal kingpins, to modern players including doctors, athletes, and movie studios. As the struggle over the control of Jade grows even larger and more deadly, the Crow family and the ancient ways of the Greenbones will never be the same. The Crow family must discern allies from enemies, set aside bloody rivalries, and make terrible sacrifices. But even the unbreakable bonds of blood and loyalty may not be enough to ensure the survival of the Greenbone clans and the nation they are sworn to protect. The Becoming by Nora Roberts. The world of magic and the world of man have long been estranged from one another, but some can walk between the two, including Green Kelly. She has just returned to Telma with her friend Marco, who's dazzled and disoriented by this realm, place filled with dragons, fairies, and mermaids. In Telma, Breen is not an ordinary young school teacher he knew her as. Here, she is learning to embrace the powers of her true identity. Marco is welcomed kindly by her people and by Keegan, the leader of the Fae. Keegan has trained Breen as a warrior, and his yearning for her has grown along with his admiration of her strength and skills. But one member of Breen's bloodline is not there to embrace her. Her grandfather, the outcast, the god of Odrin, plots to destroy Telma, and now all must unite to defeat his dark forces. The God of Lost Words by A.J. Hackwood. Claire, Hero, Rami, and Muse-turned-librarian Brevity have accomplished the impossible by discovering the true nature of unwritten books. But now that the secret is out, in its quest for power, hell will be coming for every wing of the library. To protect the unwritten wing and stave off the reach of Malpus, one of hell's most bloodthirsty generals, Claire and her friends will have to decide how much they're willing to sacrifice to keep their corner of the afterlife. Succeeding would mean rewriting the nature of the library, but losing would mean obliteration. Their only chance at survival lies in outwitting hell and writing a new chapter for the library. Luckily, Claire and her friends now know the right story. Told well can start a revolution. The Undertakers by Nicole Glover. Nothing bothers Hetty and Benji Rhodes more than a case where answers, motives, and the murder itself feel a bit too neat. Raymond Duval, a victim of one of the many fires that have erupted recently in Philadelphia, is officially declared dead after the accident. But Hetty and Benji's investigation points to a powerful fire company known to let homes in the Black community burn to the ground. Before long, another death breathes new life into the Duval investigation. Raymond's son, Valentine, is also found dead. Finding themselves with the dubious honor on taking on Valentine Duval as their first major funeral, it becomes clear that his passing was intentional. Valentine and his father's deaths are connected, and recent fires plaguing the city might be more linked to recent community events than Hetty and Benji originally thought. Our third genre is historical fiction. A Net for Small Fishes by Lucy Jago. When Frances Howard, beautiful but a happy wife of the Earl of Essex, meets the talented Anne Turner, the two strike up an unlikely yet powerful friendship. As the women grow closer, each hopes to change her circumstances. Frances is trapped in a miserable marriage while loving another, and newly widowed Anne struggles to keep herself and her 6 children alive as she waits for a promised proposal. A desperate plan to change their fortunes is hatched, but navigating the Jacobean court is a dangerous game, and one misstep could cost them everything. A Man of Honor by Barbara Taylor Bradford. 13-year-old Blackie O'Neill, facing an uncertain future in the rural County Kerry, orphaned and alone, he has just buried his sister Bronan, and must leave his home to set sail for England in search of a better life with his mother, brothers, in Leeds. There he learns his trade and starts to dream of greater things. And then high on the Yorkshire moors, in the midst of a winter morning, he meets a kitchen maid called Emma Hart. Still Life by Sarah Women. Tuscany, 1944. A young English soldier, Ulysses Temper, finds himself in the wine cellar of a deserted villa. There he has a chance encounter with Evelyn Skinner, a middle-aged art historian who has come to Italy to salvage paintings from the ruins and recall long-forgotten memories of her own youth. In each other, Ulysses and Evelyn find a kindred spirit amidst the rebel of war-torn Italy and set off on a course of events that will shape Ulysses' life for the next 4 decades. As Ulysses returns home to London, he carries his time in Italy with him. And when an unexpected inheritance brings him back to where it all began, Ulysses knows better than to tempt fate and returns to the Tuscan hills. Our 4th genre is science fiction. Elder Race by Adrian Blavatsky. Lenice is the lowly 4th daughter of the queen and always getting in the way. But a demon is terrorizing the land, and now she's an adult with responsibilities. Although she still gets in the way, she understands that the only way to save her people is to invoke the pact between her family and the elder sorcerer who has inhabited the local tower for as long as her people have lived there. But Elder Nair isn't a sorcerer, and he is forbidden to help, and his knowledge of science tells him the threat cannot possibly be a demon. Lebanon Falls by James S.A. Corey. The Laconian Empire has fallen, setting the 1300 solar systems free from the rule of Winston Durante. But the ancient enemy that killed the gate builders is awake, and the war against our universe has begun again. In the dead system of Adro, Elvie leads a desperate scientific mission to understand what the gate builders were or what destroyed them, even if it means compromising herself and the half-alien children who bear the weight of her investigation. Through the wide-flung systems of humanity, Colonel Alana Takana hunts for Durante's missing daughter and the shattered emperor himself. And on the Roacanti, James Holden and his crew struggle to build a future for humanity out of the shrouds and ruins of all that has come before. As nearly unimaginable forces prepare to annihilate all human life, Holden and a group of unlikely allies discover at last desperate chance to unite all humanity with the promise of a vast galactic civilization free from wars, fractions, lies, and secrets if they win. Noor by Needy Okafor. Unwilly, Akwadua prefers to be called AO. To her, these initials have always stood for artificial organism. AO has never really felt natural, and that's putting it lightly. Her parents spent most of the days before she was born praying for her peaceful passing because even in utero, she was wrong, but she lived. Then came the car accident years later that disabled her even further. Yet instead of viewing her strange body the way the world views it, freakish, unnatural, and even the work of the devil, AO embraces all that she is, a woman with a ton of major and necessary body augmentations. And then one day, she goes to a local market and everything goes wrong. The Perishing by Natasha Dion. Lou, a young black woman, wakes up in an alley in the 1930s Los Angeles with no memory of how she got there or where she's from. Taken in by a caring foster family, Lou dedicates herself to her education while trying to put her mysterious origins behind her. She'll go on to become the first black female journalist at the Los Angeles Times, but Lou's extraordinary life is about to take an even more remarkable turn. When she befriends a firefighter at a downtown boxing gym, Lou is shocked to realize that though she has no memory of meeting him, she's been drawing his face for years. Increasingly certain that their paths previously crossed and beset by unexplainable flashes from different eras hunting her dreams, Lou begins to believe she may be an immortal sent here for a very important reason, one that only others like her can explain. Setting out to investigate the mystery of her existence, Lou must make sense of the jumble of lifetimes calling to her, just as new forces threaten the existence of those around her. Our fifth genre is mystery and suspense. All Her Little Secrets by Wanda M. Morris. Elise seemingly has it all: an Ivy League law degree, a well-paying job as a corporate attorney in Midtown Atlanta, great friends, and a for-fun relationship with a rich, charming executive who just happens to be her white boss. But everything changes one cold January morning when Elise arrives in the executive suite and finds him dead with a gunshot to his head. And then she walks away like nothing has happened. Why? Elise has been keeping a cache of dark secrets, including a small-town past and a kid brother who spent time on the other side of the law. She can't be thrust into the spotlight again. When she uncovers shady dealings inside the company, Elise is trapped in an impossible ethical and moral dilemma. Suddenly, Elise's past and present lives collide as she launches into a pulse-pounding race to protect the brother she tried to save years ago and stop a conspiracy far more sinister than she could ever have imagined. Mercy by David Baldacci. For her entire life, FBI agent Atlee Pine has been searching for her twin sister Mercy, who was abducted at the age of 6 and never seen again. Now, after a perilous investigation that nearly proved fatal, Atlee has finally discovered not only the reason behind her parents' abandonment and Mercy's kidnapping, but also the most promising breakthrough yet: proof that Mercy survived her abduction and then escaped her captors many years ago. Though Atlee is tantalizingly close to her family at last, the final leg of her long road to Mercy will be the most treacherous yet. Mercy left at least one dead body behind before fleeing her captors years before. Atlee has no idea if her sister is still alive, and if so, how she has been surviving all this time. When the truth is finally revealed, Atlee Pine will face the greatest danger yet, and it may well cost her everything. The Left-Handed Twin by Thomas Perry. Jane Whitefield helps people disappear, fearing for their lives, fleeing dangerous situations. Her clients come to her when they need to vanish completely, to assume a new identity and establish a new life somewhere they won't be found. And when people are desperate enough to need her services, they come to an old house in rural western New York where Jane was raised to begin their escape. It's there that one spring night, Jane finds a young woman fresh from LA with a whole lot of trouble behind her. After she cheated on her boyfriend, he dragged her to the home of the offending man and made her watch as he killed him. She testified against the boyfriend, but a bribed jury acquitted him, and now he's free, trying to find and kill her. Thus begins a bloodthirsty chase that winds through the cities of the Northeast before finally plunging into Maine's 100-mile wilderness. But in pursuit, where nothing can be trusted, one thing is certain: only one party, Jane or her pursuers, will emerge alive. The Midnight Hour by Ellie Griffiths. Newly minted PI Emma Holmes and her partner Sam Collins are just settling into their business when they're chosen for a high-profile case. Retired music hall star Verity Malone hires them to find out who poisoned her husband, a theater impresario. Verity herself has been accused of the crime. The only hitch? The Brighton police are already on the case, putting Emma in direct competition with her husband, Police Superintendent Edgar Stevens. Soon Emma realizes that Verity's life intersects closely with their own, most notable in their mutual connection, Max, who has returned to England from America with his children and famous wife, Hollywood star Lydia Lamont. Lydia, desperately bored in the countryside, catches wind of what Emma and Sam are up to and offers her services. What secret does Lydia know about Verity's past? The team of female PIs circle closer to the killer, with the Brighton police hot on their trail. The clues suggest they're looking for a criminal targeting the old music hall crew. How long will it be before the trail leads straight back to Max? War Woman by Martin Limo. South Korea, 1970s. Sergeant First Class Cecil B. Harvey, a senior NCO in charge of 8th Army's classified documents, has long been a friend to Sergeants George Sino and Ernie Bascom. So when he goes missing with top secret document that even a glance at could get an officer court-martialed, George and Ernie take it upon themselves to find them. Meanwhile, overseas observer reporter Katie Bird Worthington is back to make life difficult for the top Army brass. When she lands in a Korean jail cell, George and Ernie are sent to get her out and negotiate against the publication of an incriminating story about the mistreatment of women in the military that could land important officials in hot water. But what they learn will make it hard for them to stay silent. Our sixth genre is nonfiction. Patient Zero by Lydia Kang and Nate Patterson. Patient Zero tells the long and fascinating history of disease outbreaks, how they start, how they spread, the science that lets us understand them, and how we race to destroy them before they destroy us. Volunteers by Gerard W. Alexander. As a child, Gerard lay in bed listening to the fighter jets take off outside his window and was desperate to be airborne. As a teenager at American base in Japan, he immersed himself in war games, war movies, and novels about Vietnam. Obsessed with all things military, he grew up playing with guns, joined the Civil Air Patrol for the uniform, and reveled in close and safe life inside the castle, within the embrace of the armed forces, the only world he knew or could imagine. He joined the U.S. Marines straight out of high school, eager for action. Once in Iraq, however, he came to realize he was fighting a lost cause, enmeshed in the ongoing war on terror that was really just a fruitless display of American might. The myths of war, the stories of violence, the masculinity, the heroism, and the legacy of his family, everything Alexander had planned his life around was a mirage. Lightning Down by Tom Clavin. On August 13, 1944, Joe Moses set off on his 44th combat mission over occupied France. Soon, he would join almost 170 other Allied airmen as prisoners in Buchenwald, one of the most notorious and deadly of the Nazi concentration camps. Moser and his courageous comrades from England, Canada, New Zealand, and elsewhere endured the most horrific conditions during their imprisonment, until the day the orders were issued by Hitler himself to execute them. Only a most desperate plan would save them. Justice on the Brink by Linda Greenhouse. At the end of the Supreme Court's 2019-2020 term, the center was holding. The predictions that the court would move to the far right hadn't come to pass, as the justices released surprisingly moderate opinions in cases involving abortion rights, LGBTQ rights, and how local governments could respond to the pandemic, all shepherded by the Chief Justice John Roberts. By the end of the 2021 term, much about the nation's highest court has changed. This is the story of that term. From the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg to the rise of Amy Coney Barrett, from the pandemic to the election, from Trump's campaign's legal challenges to the ongoing debate about the role of religion in American life. The Supreme Court has been at the center of many of the biggest events of the year. The Uninnocent by Catherine Blake. On Thursday morning in June 2010, Catherine Blake's 16-year-old cousin walked to a nearby bike path with a box cutter and killed a young boy he didn't know. It was a psychological break that tore through his brain and into the hearts of those who loved both boys. One brutally killed, the other sentenced to die at Angola, one of the county's most notorious prisons. Consumed with understanding her family's new reality, Blake became obsessed with heartbreak, seeing it everywhere, in her cousin's isolation, in the loss at the center of the crime, in the students she taught at various prisons, in the way our justice system breaks rather than mends, in the history of her parents and their violent childhoods. As she delves into the history of heartbreak through science, medicine, and literature, and chronicles the uneasy yet ultimately tender bond she forms with her cousin, Blake asks probing questions about justice, faith, inheritance, family, and most of all, mercy. Our last genre is romance. Anticipation by Melody Winora. After the death of her beloved husband and becoming a single parent to her 9-year-old son, Alexander, overworked scientist Ellen desperately needs an escape. So when Alexander proposes a trip to Greece, somewhere he always dreamed of visiting, Helen quickly agrees. After spending several days exploring the tourist-filled streets, they stumble upon the ancient city of Mistra and are instantly drawn into it. Its only resident is Eli, a mysterious tour guide living on the city edges, both physically and temporarily. When Eli runs into Ellen, he meets his match for the first time, but he unwittingly puts both her and her young son in danger as a result. With time running out and an enemy after them, Eli and Ellen are forced to choose between the city they love and each other. A Certain Appeal by Vanessa King. After a betrayal derailed her interior design career, Liz Bennett found a fresh start in New York. Now an executive assistant by day and a stage kitten by night, she discovered a second home with the performers at Merton Manhattan's top-tier burlesque venue. Love's the last thing on her mind when she locks eyes with Baldacci across the crowded club. Yet the spark between them is undeniable. That is, until she overhears the uptight wealth manager call her merely tolerable. Each encounter begins to feel more heated than the last. But is their chemistry enough to topple the terrible first impression? What's more, when a charming newcomer arrives on the scene with accusations against Darcy and a sudden development leaves Merton's faith in jeopardy, Bennett will have to decide who to trust in time to salvage her design dreams, her heart, and the stage she shares with her fond family. Gilboss by Jane Castle. Living in this new alien world doesn't stop the settlers from trying to recreate what they left behind. Case in point, weddings are still the highlight of any social calendar, but it's the after party that turns disastrous for Lucy Bell. Kidnapped and drugged as she leaves the party, she manages to escape, only to find herself lost in the mysterious alien underground maze of glowing green tunnels beneath Illusion Town. She's been surviving on determination and cold pizza, scavenged for her by her special dust bunny when help finally shows up. Gabriel Jones is the ghost hunter sent to rescue her, but escaping the underground ruins isn't the end of her troubles. It's only the beginning. With no rational reason for her abduction, her sole witness gone on another assignment for the guild, whispers start circulating that Lucy made it all up. Soon her life unravels until she has nothing left but her pride. The last thing she expects is for Gabriel Jones to come back to town for her. He's determined to help clear her reputation, no matter what it takes. And as the new guild boss, his word is law, even in the lawlessness of Illusion Town. Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone by Diana Galdon. Jamie Fraser and Claire Randall were torn apart by the Jacobite Rising in 1746, and it took them 20 years to find each other again. Now the American Revolution threatens to do the same. It is 1779, and Claire and Jamie are at last reunited with their daughter Brianna, her husband Roger, and their children on Fraser's Ridge. Having the family together is a dream the Frasers had thought impossible. Yet, even in North Carolina backcountry, the effects of the war are being felt. Tensions in the colonies are great. Local feelings run hot, enough to boil hell's tea kettle. Jamie knows loyalties among his tenants are split, and it won't be long until the war is on his doorstep. Brianna and Roger have their own worry that the dangers they provoked their escape from the 20th century might catch up to them. Sometimes they question whether risking the perils of the 1700s among the disease, starvation, and impending war was indeed the safer choice for their family.